You didn't provoke this. You didn't say the wrong thing. You didn't deserve the laugh that went around the room. And you know it because you've replayed that moment 100 times. In the shower, on the drive home at 2 a.m. Replaying the conversation and thinking about what you should have said. You looked at it from every angle. And no matter how many times you replay it, you still can't find the moment where you deserve that reaction. Because sometimes the reason someone humiliates you has less to do with what you did and more to do with what is happening inside them. I'm breaking down 6 reasons people try to humiliate others. Once you understand these patterns, you'll stop only asking, what did I do wrong? And you'll start understanding what might actually be driving their behaviour. Here's the first. They need someone to compare themselves to. Some people experience insecurity quietly. They notice what they wish they had. More confidence, more recognition, more progress. And they deal with those feelings privately, but others look for a way to escape them. Because sitting with the feeling of I'm behind can be uncomfortable. So instead of building themselves up, they try to lower someone else. Not because your success caused a problem, but because making someone else feel smaller can give them a temporary feeling of being bigger. Imagine this, you share something you're genuinely proud of, a project you worked hard on, a goal you finally reached. You're not bragging, you're just sharing something that matters to you. But instead of saying, that's amazing, congratulations, they smile and say, must be nice to get so much praise for doing the bare minimum. Notice what happened. They didn't challenge the achievement, they attacked what it represented. They turned a proud moment into something you now feel the need to defend. And that's why humiliation often works through comparison. The goal isn't always to prove that you are wrong. Sometimes the goal is to make you question yourself, because the moment you stop feeling proud and start feeling embarrassed, the dynamic changes, you start explaining, you start defending, and for a moment they feel back in control. But remember, not every criticism comes from insecurity. Sometimes people have valid feedback. Sometimes people are simply rude. The question is, why do they need to make you smaller instead of simply disagreeing with you? But insecurity alone doesn't explain everything. It doesn't explain why some people choose one person in the room to target. So why you? You triggered a comparison they didn't want to face. You weren't trying to compete. You weren't asking for attention. You were just being yourself. But sometimes people don't react to what you did. They react to what your situation reminds them of. Someone who feels stuck may not hear your good news as just good news. They may experience it as a reminder of something they feel they are missing. Imagine a family dinner. You casually mention a trip you're planning, or a project at work that went well. You're not showing off, you're answering a question. But someone who feels unhappy with their own progress might hear, she's moving forward, and I'm not. That comparison creates discomfort. And instead of sitting with that discomfort, some people try to remove it, that they make a joke, they minimize your achievement, they shift attention away from your success, because changing how you feel is easier than facing how they feel. But here's the important part. Being targeted does not automatically mean you're right and they are wrong. And someone disagreeing with you does not automatically mean they are insecure. But if someone repeatedly tries to embarrass you, mock your achievements, or make you feel smaller, their reaction may reveal more about their own struggles than your value. But not every person who humiliates others is reacting to comparison. Sometimes the behaviour comes from something they learned long before you entered the room. And they learn that humiliation works. Some people don't invent this behaviour. They learn it. At some point in their life, they saw that mocking, sarcasm, or putting someone down was a way to gain attention, or control a difficult situation. Maybe it was a parent who used sarcasm instead of communication. A sibling who got laughs by embarrassing others. A workplace where people competed by making someone else look incompetent. Over time, that behaviour can become a pattern. Not because they consciously decided, I want to hurt people, but because they learned, this is how you get power when you feel uncomfortable. And this matters because it changes how you see the situation. Their comment might feel personal, but sometimes you're witnessing a behaviour pattern that existed long before you entered the room. You didn't create it, you just became the person standing in front of it. Look closely at repeated patterns, the same type of joke, the same sarcastic tone, the same way of making someone else look small. People often repeat communication styles that they have learned until they become aware of them and choose something different. So we know where this behaviour can come from, but why does humiliation so often happen in front of other people? Public humiliation is about social status. A private insult only affects one person. A public insult sends a message to the entire group. It can influence how people see who has confidence, who has influence, who gets attention. That's why some people who seem bold in a group become completely different one-on-one. Without an audience, there is no social reward. No laughter, no attention, no feeling of winning the moment. The goal of public humiliation is often not only hurting one person, it's changing how the room sees that person. Think about it. A sarcastic comment at a dinner table, a joke at someone's expense in a meeting, a harmless comment that everyone laughs at. The reason it hurts so much is not only the words, it's that it happened publicly. You weren't just dealing with what was said, you were dealing with the feeling of being lowered in front of others. But here's the important part. Someone trying to gain status by embarrassing you does not mean they actually have more status. Sometimes it reveals that they need the reaction of the room to feel powerful. But even with an audience, one question remains, why did it happen at that exact moment? The moment before that revealed the trigger. Many humiliating comments don't appear completely out of nowhere. Sometimes they happen after a moment that creates discomfort for the other person. Maybe someone praised you. Maybe you shared an idea and people listened. Maybe you looked confident in a situation where they felt uncertain. The important part is this: the event itself may not have been threatening, but they may have experienced it that way. Someone with a secure sense of self might think, that's great, good for them. But someone struggling with insecurity might interpret the same moment differently. They're getting attention. They're moving forward. They're more confident than me. And instead of sitting with that uncomfortable feeling, they try to change the dynamic. A joke, a sarcastic comment, a small attack. Not because you caused the problem, but because something inside them felt challenged. When you look at what happened right before the comment, you can sometimes understand the reaction differently. The insult wasn't always about the words you said. Sometimes it was about the feeling they had before they said them. But there is one final piece of the puzzle, because public humiliation doesn't only depend on the person making the comment. It also depends on what happens after. The room's silent permission. Sometimes humiliation continues because nobody interrupts it. Not because everyone agrees, but because groups are complicated. People often hesitate to challenge someone publicly. They think, maybe it was just a joke. I don't want to make things awkward. Someone else will say something. So the moment passes, but silence can accidentally send a message. This behaviour is acceptable here. And when someone learns they can embarrass others without consequences, they are more likely to repeat it. This is why the same person can behave very differently in different environments. In one group, people laugh and let it pass. In another, someone calmly says, why would you say something like that? And suddenly the behaviour loses its power, because humiliation depends on more than the person making the comment. It depends on the reaction around them. None of these 6 reasons mean you deserve to be humiliated. Someone choosing to embarrass you, mock you, or make you feel small says more about how they handle their own emotions than it says about your actual worth. So tell me, which of these 6 reasons connected with you the most? If this video helped you understand these situations differently, hit subscribe to Healthy Mind CEO.